Hi guys, good evening one and all. Today's session is about broken authentication and myself, Raj Bhargav. I'm working as a cybersecurity analyst over here. So let's get into the topic. So, sure. I hope my screen is visible, I guess. Yeah. Today's topic is about broken authentication. What is broken authentication? Uh, um, let's 1 second. What is broken authentication? Like it is a weakness in the application, like you can say like improper authentication, like while get logging into the account or session management, like you can capture the sessions those all and unauthorized access to like the access to other users or anything sensitive data functionality, those all comes under broken authentication. So, like common vulnerabilities, let's see like what are all the common vulnerabilities that arise in broken authentication. So here, to get the access, or who are all the attackers maybe, so they get the access to the sensitive information, or they can compromise the system, or they get the session. They can capture the session and take the user's accounts as well. We may get all this. So, like for what are the getting the policy, like for what arises this one? Weak password policies will be okay, if weak password policies are there, then you can see it this broken authentication will be coming. As you can see, lack of complexity requirement. As you can see, if you just given password 123, it may be easily detected. So we need to keep it like that. Like you should be using all characters, special characters, everything, caps letters, small letters, everything we need to use. No password expiration, because insufficient password restrictions, you should not use password for every account. Those all should be not there. You should not reuse your password for everything. Lack of multi-factor, like without authenticating or anything properly. Otherwise, like insecure session management, session hijacking can be done, improper timeouts, or lack of session invalidation, without invalidation. Suppose you're taking session cookie, and you can capture that, and you can able to log in, then session invalidation, those all. So missing authentication factors, like here, some of the missing authentication factors. Okay. So just give me a second. Let's see a lab over here. Mm, so multi-factor authentication, we need to get the multiple authentication, not 2FA, so that it should be validating properly, or otherwise biometric authentication to get into the website, or thing contextual authentication, we need to authorize the factors as well, we need to cookies, or the token number should be there, and the not the IP address. So user behavior, these things should be there, should be validated. So insufficient authorization. So improper access controls, without a proper permissions or one can access, suppose I am a normal user, if I can be able to access the admin user, those comes under improper access control. If I were able to do the bypassing security checks, if we can able to bypass any security checks like 2FA or OTP bypassing, those all comes under the bypassing security checks. Sensitive data exposure, if it is any sensitive data exposure, suppose if you, I'm a normal user, suppose there, let's take Amazon as a thing. Suppose if I get the admin functionality, or I get the access to an admin functionality over there, so much of data will be there, like the user credentials, all the things will be there, right? Email address, card numbers over there, every piece of information will be there. So this piece of information will be considered as a sensitive data exposure in the in our web application pen testing, or you can say in the cybersecurity domain. So so it should be accessible only to the authorized users only. So we need to check it like whether it is will access for normal users also. So that's why pen testing is like we need to conduct the pen testing like regularly in the period like or in the interval of time, so that like we'll be keeping up to date and there will be no loss to the company, or a company will be gaining so much of trust. So let's say like some real world data breaches, like your real world examples of broken authentication attacks. Like previously, at companies like Yahoo and Equifax and LinkedIn have often like these companies have like leak so much of authentication without proper authentication mechanism. So much of data is leaked to the real world. Reset functions, those all lack of multi-factor authentication, these all comes under thing. So that's why unauthorized access, you can say it. Previously I mentioned like without you don't have the permission, like who should be able to see that particular data should be like authenticated properly so that they can only access the data, so our information will be also secured. So impact, as I told you, impact is like data breaches or financial loss, reputational damage of the organization. These are some of the impacts that it should be a company will be facing. So mitigation strategies, like see like how we can mitigate this mitigation, how to mitigate this broken authentication. So using strong password policies, we can mitigate and like improper session management, multi-factor authentication, 2FA. Otherwise, like we are nowadays like we can generate a ID, like we can use a Google Authenticator and 2FA, like let's say two-factor authentication we can use to generate some random codes, so we can give it to them so that they can be accessible freely to their website, to their information to their. So like here like effective session management is like very important, so that no one can take that session hijacking won't be happening, so that yeah, impression those all will be like very good on the users. So as I told you, like in Equifax, Yahoo, and data breach what happened. So in 2017, Yahoo data was breached in 2000 to 2016. As you seen over here, like in 2017, massive data breach happened in the Equifax. Nearly 150 million customers' data was leaked, and over here, some millions of people, billions of user accounts, like due as compromised due to like authentication weakness, session management practicals, all those all. So what this OS top 10? What is OS top 10? Like OS top 10, what this do is like they'll be updating the top 10 vulnerabilities that commonly arises in the applications for every 5 years, so that so that they can one can whoever testers are there, pen testers are there, so can they test these vulnerabilities at first, so that there will be no data leakage or any type of vulnerabilities at the starting. They should mitigate these vulnerabilities easily. So after that like they can go for the other we can go for the other vulnerabilities as well as. So we should be very careful for while the doing of the testing. We should be able to search for every piece of information that is able like whether it is leaking or not. Okay. uh, and like it should be like properly validating the user, whether properly validate the user so that he can be only access what data he can access. Suppose let's take an example. Suppose take an example like some website. If you can able to access like others information or anything, then it's you can say that like it's not authenticating properly. Suppose you can be able to log in into the other's account with your credit, like with your password, those all then you with your username or password, if you can able to log in into the other's account and view their information without properly validating, those all comes under or broken authentication. Okay. So like building trust and the security through secure authentication, like we need to implement secure authentication mechanisms or robust session management and proactive. We should be like multi-factor, as I previously mentioned. We should use like a proper authentication, and while authenticating like we should be maintaining the password the password hashing and other policies visual policies to identify and properly verify the user whether he is logging in or the other person is trying to logging into their account. As you can see nowadays, like Gmail is verifying whether it's you or not by sending a request to your mobile. If you're logging into your Chrome or like any browser, it is asking like confirm whether it is you or not. So this is one type of proper authenticating those all their way. Suppose Microsoft also like their authenticator app is there, so that like whenever you are logging into their account, they're asking for the click on that particular number. They are giving some random number and telling us to click to your, like suppose if you have authenticator app in your mobile, those are these type of authentications to be needed to uh, uh, like uh, to break these vulnerabilities as well, to break this, I mean like to mitigate these vulnerabilities so that user cannot access any personal information regarding that user or the company's any data leakage, so that company can build trust everything. So robust session management over so they should implement strict sessions so that whenever the user just left for some time, is not away from the keyboard or anything, at that time it should be session should be expired and it should be automatically log out from that account, like this. And session ID should be properly validated so that another user cannot be accessed, right? It should be properly generated and handled and protect the session IDs. We should so stay vigilant and proactive. Like we need to regularly conduct the security assessment so that like if any new vulnerabilities or anything there in the news daily, we'll be seeing some new vulnerabilities in our industry. So that we need to evolve. So that like we need to regularly testing auditing so that our website will be trusted by the many users. Like this, like we can gain the trust of the users and it will be very helpful. So that's it for today's session. That's it for today's session, guys. Okay then, thank you, bye.